As a disclaimer before we get into the specific video, it was not in any way intentional that I have delayed to deliver on what I promised you months ago. When Exile released back in October, yeah, it's been that long, I'm like 2 months behind. I've been waiting. Again, just because I have delayed on it does not mean it hasn't been on my mind. As it pertains to music coverage, and again, many of you who have consulted my videos before along those lines know that I've been trying to make it a grander focus in what I cover on this channel for the last couple of years. It's been an ambition of mine, and with the 2022 year, this is definitely skyrocketed in regards to the attention I've given this particular art form. And again, I've always had that passion, being music is my favorite artistic style in preference. Even though, again, I love whatever I've covered generally, and I'm always open to trying out new things. Music for me is such a principle and first love in my world. And when it comes to Demon Hunter, they're an established talent. I spent a lot of time covering fresh listens from new artists, many of which, again, I've yet to cover, but established names as well. I've got a bunch in the lineup, and Demon Hunter is one I started with, and unfortunately, as of this point, never finished. Until now, I'm finally making good on my promise as it concerns Exile. And I don't tend to do full-length coverage that often. Again, I have to balance these types of videos, which for me are much more passion projects from what I normally do on this channel. I have to balance creative artistry with time management. And as it concerns many of the other artists I've wanted to cover, it's been such a wide pool that maybe I'm not able to give regular album listens in their entirety for every other artist. But on certain occasions, I have made those exceptions. And with Demon Hunter, longtime favorite of mine. Maybe for some of you, this is going to be the first introduction to their music, and I hope you like them as much as I have. I've been a fan for 12 years, and Exile, of their 20-year tenure, Exile is not disappointed in any way. It's a long-awaited album at this point, having come off of War and Peace, which we, like many other artistic ventures, had to wait on, given, all the delays. I'm not sure that was maybe the ultimate reason. And, music takes time to create. But with Exile, this is such an expansive vision from what they normally do. But even though their talents are still in focus quite well, and if you love Demon Hunter, there is that presence to their work. As well, in terms of some of their pieces of what I've heard thus far, there are some breaths of fresh air. Let's say, for example, Godless with the Richie Faulkner attribution, as well as Master. Master was so fresh, and that was like the last one I've covered at this point. There's a different sound of this album that I'm really enjoying, and also they've never done a conceptual vision before. Which that's totally new, but based on other groups I'm connected with who are materializing in that vein of artistry, I am very game to listen to what Demon Hunter has to offer. And at this point, I have started to make my way through Exile in full. In fact, I did purchase the deluxe edition, so gratefully, I will be able to cover the album in its entirety. And when I say the entirety, if you're not familiar with the way Demon Hunter releases their works, especially over the last couple of years, the deluxe version tends to incorporate 2 bonus tracks. I have access to those, and I can't wait to be able to cover those on this channel and say, provide proof that I am the ultimate fan. And I will say, as it pertains to Demon Hunter, I put out a lot more money in the past couple of years than I have for other artists. I don't tend to buy like special edition packages, but again, to get those 2 songs, as well as their past library, and again, to show proof, and you'll see that when I cover those tracks, I bought, hang on, let me get this back in the package here, not just Exile in its entirety, and this is not in any way, by the way, I don't know if I need to clarify this, maybe I do for YouTube's sake. This isn't a sponsorship, this is purely my recommendation. If you want that full Demon Hunter perspective, get the deluxe. But I have, like I've said, spent a lot of money over the past couple of years, months actually, not just buying that. I finally got the other 2 packages for War and Peace as well as Outlive. This thing, like I said, though, I recommend the deluxe packages if you can get them. This one is hard to acquire. I got like the last copy off of eBay, and I spent, I'm ashamed to admit this, I put out like $128, that's counting $28 in shipping. But it sometimes costs money, and for this damn ring, which is probably my favorite, I don't tend to go for like the boxy fashion style anyway, but for Demon Hunter, like this particular one, it's got the whole insignia if you've never seen it before. It's hard to find even like on a Google search, but it's got the DH logo, or the inscription 8 for Outlive. That was their 8th album release, the logo on the side. This is such a cool ring. I love it. I love being able to wheel around being like, yeah, I'm the ultimate fan. I got this thing. And I have publicly. I've had some people that I've been able to connect with, in fact. They're like, oh yeah, you've got that ring. I just put out a lot of money for it. But like I said, I have access to the full thing. I'm really excited to cover it and finally finish up again on what I delivered for you. And finally, for me as well, satisfy the craving I've had to listen to Exile in its entirety, and I have been waiting because, again, I wanted to give you that first impression. Having enjoyed Demon Hunter for many years, and Exile specifically, I did want to have that first impression with you on the entirety of the album. We're going to do that. And again, when I say entirety, I mean the deluxe as well. So, track by track, of course, I got 8 in full to cover. And the way that I've been going about this in my filming strategy is I've taken time to listen to the preceding tracks. I'm going in order of the album. So including with the deluxe edition, there's 6 interludes. And they kind of tell the story of Exiles and frame the works and transition from one track to another. And that's how I'm perusing. So at this point, I'm up to track 6 with Heaven Don't Cry, which I've covered previously. And now we're about to listen to track 7, Another Place. In fact, I'm actually going to get the booklet back out because I'll be utilizing this. I have taken the time, by the way, and specifically another reason why I say get the deluxe. If you're somebody like me that likes to dig deep into the music, you not only get, in terms of the deluxe package, you get the exclusive comic book as well. This is like the first comic book I've ever bought, by the way. It's Demon Hunter that gets that acclaim. Anyway, and I cover comic book content all the time. But with Exile, I love being able to dig into the works of the music in regards to the artist's vision. And their booklets for all 3 of the albums I just showed you, Outlive, War and Peace, as well as Exile, have these particular issues that go into the details on the piece, not only the lyrics, which are going to be great for me, because I do provide the lyrics as well for your accommodation if you so wish to read along the narrative of the piece. Those are available in my videos as you watch the pieces. In fact, not just like it's a side point, but the booklets themselves provide a lot of dialogue and interpretation in the pieces. This one specifically actually features a new development. Like if you read on like one of their, I'll just show you a sample. This is Revolution, so we'll get to that track as well. But you read the inscription, you got the lyrics right here, and then they've got, well, actually it's not a good example. Let's do it with Chemicals instead, because this is new. They've got the background of the song in terms of the artist's, trying to see if I can frame this in the camera, artist, meaning behind the song and the interpretation of the lyrics, as well as now the vision of the music. That's not something they've done before. And with certain entries, for example, like Master, where they've specified, again, a fresh sound in regards to making Demon Hunter have a presence of longevity, and that certainly makes sense. I knew immediately, like I've never heard this before, but having that baseline indicated by the booklet. And again, I highly recommend, if you want to enjoy Demon Hunter on a deeper level, get the deluxe. They do tend to go off the market, at least for a little bit, and then maybe you'll have the experience like me of having to fork over like over $100 after when you should have bought them in the first place. It's $40 outright on their page. You can still buy it, but again, I highly recommend you do it with that option in mind. That's, again, a huge asset to these videos, and it's going to provide a lot of dimension to these works as well. And again, I love to be able to dig deeper into the pieces myself, and hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. So if Another Place, if you'll forgive me, because there's no like video to accompany this, I'm going to have kind of a visualizer method pulled up for you, just at least for some subtle entertainment, as well as the lyrics, because I do provide those again as a provision. They will track along the song as we proceed forward. But if you forgive me, I might look down a couple times. I'm reading along with the piece. Again, the lyrics are right here in the booklets as well, and I'm probably going to touch on some points as well with the characterization of the song as we go forward and listening to it. But for now, let's introduce ourselves to Another Place. Again, the 7th track off the album, coming off of Heaven Don't Cry, which is a great, as it's been referred to, power ballad. I 100% agree with that. Wonderful listen. This is Another Place. All right. Here we go. Let's see how this is. And by the way, this is also leading into the 8th track, the first single that was released being Freedom is Dead. That song is so good. Okay, softer. Much softer presence. Darker background, deeper presence. Okay. Yeah, coming off of Heaven Don't Cry, this is definite receding of the tone. It's good though. Dramatic presence to the song. Tone matches beautifully to the interpretation of the song, by the way, having read it. I like that strumming. Again, they haven't done stuff like this before. There's a lot of experimentation on this album. This is definitely dipping into Peace territory. Even Peace had some harder works. I'm thinking of their last release, which is much more ballad-centric. Okay, this is referring back to the chorus, okay. Really interesting scope to the song. Again, there's such a uniqueness over this entire album. Good elevation. Ryan just has such a beautiful range to his voice, which is not oftentimes what you find in a lot of metal songs, especially if somebody resides more in the territory of screaming. That tends to be where their talents are founded on. With Ryan, he can go all over the place. I love it. Specific talent. Love listening to him. Oh, this is so good. Kind of evoking a Five-Finger Death Punch tone here, too, in regards to what Ivan Moody's done in vocals as well. Forgive me if I find that connection. I just kind of hear it. Ah, I like that electronic warble, too, in the background. That's good. I heard that. It's very distinct. A lot of variation to this piece, particular oddity. I like it. Okay, there we go. A little bit later in the transition. I like that. I like that delay. It's very intentional. I really like the structure of this piece. Again, it's distorts your sense of the usual. Hard closing. I like that. Great segue into Freedom is Dead. That's going to be a dramatic shift of tone. I'm sure for those of you who might be listening to this entire album on your own and you haven't heard that piece yet, if you choose to listen again the album's entirety, you'll recognize that disruption. Freedom is Dead, again, is such a great single, but this is a really unique piece. Very much like Master, even though this does tend to reside more in the familiar territory of their pieces. While Master had a very fresh sound to it, again, with a lot of its echo effects, its structure as well also was very unique. The pacing to this is one of those examples that I don't often find in regards to a blending between tone of the music as well as the lyrical vision. It's let's say, for example, as a case of relevance, Bullet for My Valentine's No More Tears to Cry. That's a recent debut off their deluxe edition of their self-titled album. And I'll be covering the video as well going forward, but this is a thought that I've had in regards to my consideration of a song past my original coverage of it. Listening to that piece, and the song is basically about self-help. I promise there's a connection here. It's why I'm derailing on a tangent point in this case. But with Bullet for My Valentine's song there's a pattern of the song in regards to how the verses come in regards to an independent strumming. It's not as aggressive as what they're known for, and they're pretty big, I'd say, especially in the Welsh metal scene. That's where they originated. But, I mean, they're great in terms of American presence, too. They've got a lot of notoriety, very well-known group. Beautifully established at this point. But they had this real creativity of the track that I'd not heard before, where the song lessens in drama in regards to the aggressive tone, and it's just the frontman, I forget his name, it's like Matt or something, he's just strumming a guitar, and singing along with the piece. And the song is, again, about self-help amid somebody dealing with a case of emotional disruption, Pertinence, more like self-destructive or self-harming tendencies. Some might say it's more adjacent to like a suicidal tone. There's in fact mentions in the lyrics as well to talk about that from a therapeutic or a cathartic perspective, I should say. It's a very deep song. But the song, in regards to the way it was structured, it blends the vision very well in those sections where there's a calmer mood and it feels like somebody's more in that set environment. If you're speaking, let's say, for example, regards to suicidal thoughts or self-destructive tendencies, and I could say I'm more somebody who's dealt with the latter of which, in different chapters of my life, there are those situations in life, perhaps maybe it's in your friends group, or it's with your family, or even maybe it's just in your own solitude, maybe in your room, that you feel more at ease with life. But then when the song kicks back in with that more aggressive edge of what they're known for, that more so comes along as symbolism of an environment, at least for me, this is how I kind of interpret the piece, where you would feel, let's say, for example, I guess, and I'll make this comparison as well when I consider that video. I have the point logged in for that. But let's say you are maybe a kid who's being bullied in school. When you feel safer at home, you feel more in a dangerous position perhaps at the academic setting, right? So the tone of the piece and the severity of the lyrics and the boldness of it married very well to the way the song was written in regards to manifesting that message. I sense the same energy here with Another Place, though it's not in any way adjacent in meaning. This is very different. Again, I highly recommend, if you want to get the deeper vision, get the booklets that are incorporated with the deluxe edition. You will thank me. But the song in itself is about, if I could sum this down, it's a very time-relevant song given what we're dealing with in our culture right now. And I can't speak to this on much of like a global perspective. I could maybe say, with forgetting some specific names, there are threads that I can think of, at least in people's lives, where, again, society is just at such a disruption point. It seems that nobody's in union with one another anymore, and we're infighting amongst ourselves as we've been for a couple years. And this is not just, I'm sure, go-to example for everybody to be, well, in the political landscape, true, but this is not really a political song in charge. It's more so speaking, again, just in our culture. And I'd say specifically, again, in regards to America, that's how I can best relate being an American. That's where I'm most situated, like about 100% of my life. I've never traveled internationally to experience it other places, but in America over the last couple of years, there is such a behavior amongst people generally. I'm not trying to single out, again, maybe one side or the other. Like, I've even found myself kind of floating around in different territories at this, but it just seems like we live in an era where people are just at each other's throats. Like, we're ready to pounce on the next person or get pounced on. And there's no sense of calm anymore. We might just go outside or in the vicinity of a general public and we might feel, again, a bit of a tension. Not saying that you necessarily want to experience that with people. Ideally, we'd be in a comfortable place where we could just trust that the person next to us, maybe in the shopping mall or something, is not ready, if we say the wrong thing or we do the wrong thing. This is a song, actually, that's a perfect segue into Freedom is Dead. Speaking of the lyrics, again, the messages are kind of connected because that song was a commentary on cancel culture, or is more so of a division, and freedom of speech specifically as the song is emphasized in the interpretation behind it, although, again, it's been attributed in the past as a cancel culture-centric song in part, or at least it has energy to it. I think there was a full attribution at that point. But Another Place is speaking about that general disunity and a yearning to find a more comfortable position. Again, a past era where perhaps not everybody seemed to be at the ready to kill each other. That's kind of what it feels like emotionally. It just feels like everybody's ready at this point with a knife to everybody's throat. And maybe that's a dramatic illustration, rather violent one, but it feels like that emotionally. I'm sure many of us, again, not speaking, I know the go-to example would be in the political sphere, but I'm speaking even just generally. Even amid, for example, if you follow this channel, I cover a pretty wide array of content. I'd say even in the pop culture sphere, there's a lot of yelling and screaming over things that have been happening. You don't necessarily have to be as involved as maybe I am in keeping an eye on what's happening in the pop culture setting, but among certain brands and franchises, even, I know this is a bit of maybe a trite example, but there's a lot of division, and people just seem, again, like I said, if there's a creative choice that, let's pick a good example here, Star Wars, for example. I know it's just an entertainment property. It's not really real life, but even amid, storytelling, people are just ready to kill each other. If something does not go the way, I'm not saying necessarily everybody's ready, to do that, but it feels that way. It feels like, if there's any wrong decision made, you're going to make this camp of, fans wrong, or that camp of fans wrong. I can certainly speak to perhaps how I feel about the brand, even though it's a side point. I'll save that more so, again, for entertainment-related videos. But I'm just picking an example broadly. People are just ready for division. It just seems we don't live in a world anymore where people can agree. Just even to disagree. We can't have a relationship with people at all anymore. It's sad. I miss those days, and that's something that I would say that the last couple of years have birthed much more dramatically. I think this song really, again, it's a beautifully relevant piece. It feels particularly modern, and it's a great addition to the album, again, in scope of storytelling, because it perfectly feeds into Freedom is Dead. I mean, that's, again, a particular example of what Another Place is speaking to, that yearning to get into perhaps a past world where there wasn't so much disunification, where people could have a relationship with one another, even, again, just on mere hospitality, and not feel like, you walk around in life and someone is just ready to kill you. If you so choose to act a certain way or volunteer a certain opinion that goes against expectations of general society or where culture's at. And, again, for better or for worse, I can certainly speak to perhaps the degradation of culture in part playing an effect on that. But, I see it. I feel it all the time, just, again, in general society. And, I mean, I perhaps am a bit, I'd say probably there are people, I can't speak for anybody in this case, but I would imagine maybe some people kind of might find themselves in the same position that I am. I tend to perhaps ward off possibility of confrontation. I'm not at all really into conflict myself. So for me, when I'm in the company of others, I'll just go to the mall or something, or a store just to pick up groceries, and I'll put my headphones in, which is great, by the way. I love listening to music, just walking around, but it's a comfort thing. But also maybe to some degree, I'm not in a position where I'm really happy with where society is at, and perhaps maybe I'm, in thinking about it, trying to ward off risk of, maybe, again, like I said, that's not a fair assumption, because maybe not everybody you're around is ready, to go to battle with you over something. But I just, I look at society these days, and I'm saddened. It's an entirely different world, especially over the last 2 years. Things have changed so much that I think a lot of us could find ourselves in a position where what the song is speaking to in regards to Another Place, and hoping for, again, those simpler times of just being able to engage with somebody and not feel at risk. I miss that world, and in some ways it does feel a bit dead. Not saying it couldn't be revived, but it just doesn't feel like it's existent these days. Not anymore. But it's, in terms of the interpretation, I quite like it. Again, it's a very grounded piece. As a song, it does feel particularly individual. I mean, even the introduction, to me, it has that deeper edge that DH has established in the past. But the pacing of it, again, did feel particularly specific. And Ryan's range on this song as well is great. I mean, it feeds around in different places. It's a song that, again, utilizes some of his strengths, again, from the metal background. But it does feel particularly individualistic. It's just the tone of it as well. Like I said, it's a perfect example of blending beautifully with message and peace. It's a track with great vision. Great first entry in regards to getting back up to speed of covering Demon Hunter. Again, I haven't meant to be delayed as I have, but I've been waiting, again, in anticipation to be able to cover the remainder of this album, and I'm finally getting back to it. And in terms of a lead-in track, that's great. And as a fit-in between... the tone actually really floats, again, like I said, off of Heaven Don't Cry, which is a little more intense into a slower song, more melodic, and it's going to really jump back up to speed with Freedom is Dead. Like, again, if you have that track in mind, tonally this is going to be a dramatic shift, but it feeds, again, very well into it in regard to the message. I think it's a beautifully placed piece as well, where it's positioned. What are your guys' thoughts, though, with Another Place? For some of you, again, like I said, this may be a first listen to Demon Hunter. If it is the case, I highly encourage you to consult their past work. Again, they've done 10 albums, excluding Exile at this point, that are worth checking out. And I think, a couple of our side projects as well, in different places, but I would highly recommend them. And I'd love to hear, perhaps, if you're somebody in that position, or if you're a longtime fan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Never Place down below. As well as, going forward, maybe on Evertracks too, and I will be covering the rest. Like I've said, it's been my intention. I promised you a full-length, coverage on this case, and I'm making my way through Exiles. It's nice to jump back onto speed with this, and Never Place is a great addition to the album. Like Master, and maybe a couple of the other tracks, has a unique flair to it, and Exiles impresses that fresher vision. It's been a pleasurable listen, though, thus far, and Never Place is a great addition, even amid its uniqueness. I think it's a very dynamic piece. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.